I at first I was like, I'm never going to play these dark characters. But as I said again, like even going into Melania, which was a funny show, you never know. Like you're going to find the darkness in the character because that is the part of the character. You're going to learn everything about the good, the bad, the ugly. So my whole thought was like, I'll just be all angelic about my work. Well, that's not even possible. So even when
Yeah.
you write your own stuff, it's not possible. But what I do think is how we deal with that trauma and how we allow ourselves as actors to work through it, how we approach it. And then more importantly, which is where I think the conversation can go next, is how the rest of the community around that actor supports them during this process. So the villain of the play, the villain of the show, the character that's going through this, right? Maybe they have some extra help, like any person on a football field who gets a concussion would have. Like maybe we can just be like, listen, this is pretty dark. This person's going to need an extra this and this. When the show is over tonight, we're going to all do this. And it's not going to be like a big deal. It's just going to be this little song that we put on to reset them a little bit. And when the show is over, we're going to make sure that they have some help to get back home because they definitely will need home to be able to get back home. This is actually, funnily enough, you're reminding me, this whole idea what made me aware of the lack of this work in the theater was when I was on Shark Tank. Because after I walked off Shark Tank, it's a very traumatic experience what happened to me in the sense that had I not been an actor and thought that it was all real, it would have been very hard. So they
Wow.
came up and had me sign some papers and speak to a psychologist.
Really?
Yeah. So they knew that this was a traumatic experience and that I might have some repercussions. And they wanted me to make sure, or they wanted to make sure that I was okay. And I just thought,
Wow.
Mark Burnett is the producer of Shark Tank. And I will just say that moment, at that moment, I just was like, I don't know what the reasons were. Maybe there's legal reasons why they had to do this. But I felt so loved at that moment. Like anything that happened on Shark Tank and all that stuff that you see, it didn't matter because they said, are you okay?
Yeah.
And we as actors don't say that to each other.
Yes.
We don't say that to the team. We just say, good job. Good job
Yeah.
for going there
Yeah.
and keep
Yeah.
going there. And
Right.
the actors like, getting taken over by this conversation. And we don't know how far how far it's going. So I just thought, so that really was a really big thing for me because I wasn't acting at the time, but I just felt so loved at that moment. Like, are you okay? She gave me
Yeah.
her card and I was like, wow. Because
It's
essentially
so
in my mind, I just did a
incredible.
theatrical experience and they were asking me if I was okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's real. I got to tell you something. That's incredible because I always think, particularly, like I said, I've watched so many episodes of that show. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I get so mean on them. So it's interesting that they have that setup because you're comparing it to like theater. It's so true because I remember back in the day. I mean, when this was in my 20s, I did West Side Story and I was Anita. And
Oh
that
my goodness.
scene
Yeah.
where they attack you, I remember every night coming away from that scene, I was just in a mess. And then I had to come out right after that and be like, hey, here's the audience, yay. But like I was so just I was raped every night. You know what I mean? Like it was just,
Yeah.
what am
And
I doing?
it's
And
horrible.
nobody's
And your
coming up to
body,
me, and saying, how you doing? Like it was took a long time for me to like walk away from that. But I think in looking at everything that you're doing and bringing to light, it really, I think, affected me beyond that show because
it
I
must
felt
have,
like it
yeah.
happened.
Back to the body. So your body doesn't have a sense of sarcasm, in my opinion. It doesn't know when you're lying. So when something like that is happening to your body, and more importantly, happening repetitively, your body begins to mistrust you because why would you put yourself in that situation over and over and over again? And
Mm,
so I think that's what happens. Like, if what would have happened differently if someone offset every time you walked on would have been like, hey, Jen, you good? And would have
right,
been, wake up.
right.
Would it have felt just like a dream that never really happened? Could you have had that understanding that that was not real at that moment and your body would have accepted it? I don't know. But that would have been interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.